I woke up to the sound of chainsaws. Not one, not two, dozens. By the time I reached my family orchard, 40 years of memories were lying on the ground like firewood. The HOA president smiled and said, "We improved the neighborhood." She thought the trees were gone forever. She had no idea every single one of those trees was worth far more than the land beneath them. And one forgotten document was about to cost the HOA everything. If you love unbelievable HOA revenge stories where arrogant boards finally face justice, hit subscribe, because today's ending is one they never saw coming. The first thing I noticed wasn't the noise, it was the silence. No birds, no bees, no rustling leaves, just engines, heavy equipment, wood snapping. My boots hit the dirt before my brain caught up. The orchard sat on the eastern edge of my property. 3 acres, almost 300 fruit trees, apples, peaches, pears, cherry trees my grandfather planted before I was even born. Each one carried a tiny metal tag with the year it had been planted. Every tag told part of our family's story. I rounded the hill. Then I stopped cold. A massive yellow bulldozer rolled straight through the center row. Ancient apple trees crashed into the earth one after another. Workers fed branches into industrial chippers like they were clearing roadside brush. I couldn't breathe. "What are you doing?" The operator shut the machine off. He pointed behind me. "Talk to her." I turned. There she was, Linda, president of the Willow Creek HOA. Perfect white polo, designer sunglasses, coffee cup in one hand, a clipboard in the other. She wasn't even pretending to feel bad. "Oh, good," she said casually. "You're finally here." I stared at the destroyed trees. "My orchard," she shrugged. It violated community visibility standards. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because my brain refused to accept what she had just said. My property isn't even inside your HOA. She smiled the way teachers smile at children. Our attorney disagrees. Behind her, another tree fell. The ground shook. That tree was older than Linda herself. I ran toward the bulldozer. 2 workers stepped in front of me. "Sir, don't interfere. Those are my trees. We're following authorized work orders." "Authorized? Authorized by who?" Linda lifted a folder. Signed approval. She waved the papers just long enough for me to notice the HOA logo. No county seal. No judge. No city permit. Just HOA letterhead. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Linda immediately lowered the folder. "No filming." "Then stop destroying my property." She ignored me. Instead, she turned toward the crew. "Continue." The chainsaws came back to life. Every second, another branch disappeared. Every minute, another decade of family history vanished. My father planted some of those trees with his own hands before he died. My daughter learned to climb them. Every Thanksgiving, our family picked fruit from those exact rows. Now they were becoming mulch. Neighbors gathered along the road. Most stayed silent. A few quietly shook their heads. One elderly man walked over. "You should call the sheriff." "I already am." Linda overheard. "Go ahead," she laughed. "We've already handled the legal side." That sentence stuck with me. Handled the legal side. People who repeat that sentence usually haven't. Then I noticed something strange. Near the entrance stood a county survey marker. Bright orange. Fresh paint. Someone had recently measured something. Linda saw me looking. For the first time all morning. Her smile disappeared. She quickly stepped between me and the marker. That tiny movement told me everything. She wasn't protecting the trees. She was hiding something. Something much bigger than an orchard. And before sunset, I was going to find out exactly what it was. The smell of fresh-cut wood followed me all the way to the county office. It wasn't just in the air. It was stuck in my head. Every mile I drove, I kept seeing another tree falling. Every tree had a memory. My grandfather teaching me how to graft apple branches. My father insisting we never harvest before sunrise. My daughter, picking the smallest peaches because she said they tasted sweeter. Now all of it had been flattened in a single morning. But one thing kept bothering me. Not the destruction, the confidence. Linda hadn't acted like someone taking a risk. She acted like someone who believed she couldn't lose. People only behave like that when they think the paperwork protects them. So I decided to find the paperwork before she had a chance to hide it. The county clerk looked exhausted. "Can I help you? I need every property record connected to parcel 17B. She typed for a few seconds. Then frowned. "That's strange." "What is?" "Someone requested these records yesterday." My stomach tightened. "Who?" "I can't tell you." She paused. "But whoever it was paid for certified copies." "Certified copies? Yesterday?" That meant this wasn't a random mistake. Someone knew today was coming. I asked for everything available. Boundary surveys, subdivision plats, utility easements, historic parcel maps, old tax records, anything. The printer kept running. Page after page slid into the tray. Most looked ordinary. Then one document caught my eye. A survey from 1986. The orchard boundary was marked in thick red ink. Directly beside it was a handwritten note from the county surveyor. Private Agricultural Preservation Zone. Existing trees protected. Protected. Not recommended. Not suggested. Protected. I looked up. "Can I get a certified copy of this?" The clerk nodded. "As many as you need." I smiled for the first time all day. Outside, my phone buzzed. It was my neighbor, Carl. "You need to come back." "Why?" "They're not done." "I know." "No, you don't understand. They've started removing the stumps." My heart dropped. Removing trees was bad enough. Removing stumps destroyed root systems. That erased decades of evidence. Whoever ordered this knew exactly what they were doing. I sped home. When I arrived, 2 excavators were digging enormous holes where my oldest apple grove had stood. The workers looked nervous this time. Not confident. Nervous. One young operator quietly whispered as I walked past. "I wouldn't be here if I'd known." "What do you mean?" "They told us this land belonged to the HOA." I showed him my deed on my phone. His face turned white. "You should leave," I said. He looked toward Linda. "If I stop working, I lose today's pay. If you keep working, you might lose much more." He swallowed hard. Within minutes, he shut his excavator down. Another operator noticed. Then another. One by one, the machines fell silent. Linda stormed across the field. "What are you doing?" one foreman answered. "We need verification." "You already have it." "No, ma'am. We have HOA paperwork. We need county authorization." Her face turned bright red. "I am the authorization." The foreman folded his arms. "No, you're not." For the first time all day, someone had told Linda no. She immediately pulled out her phone. "I'm calling our attorney." The foreman shrugged. "So are we." 20 minutes later, 3 pickup trucks rolled onto the property. Not lawyers, county inspectors. They walked directly toward the survey marker I'd noticed earlier. One inspector knelt beside it. Another compared GPS coordinates. The third unfolded a large survey map. Linda tried to interrupt. "You don't need to check that." The lead inspector ignored her. He measured once, measured again, then looked straight at Linda. "Who instructed this demolition?" "I did." He didn't write anything down. He simply asked one more question. "Did anyone tell you these trees were inside a protected agricultural easement?" Linda hesitated, just for a second. But that second was enough. Because everyone standing there, including the construction crew, saw the fear replace her confidence. And that's when one inspector quietly said something that made every worker step away from their machines. "We need to stop everything immediately." The entire orchard went silent. But what the inspectors discovered beneath the paperwork was far more expensive than anyone imagined. The inspectors didn't rush. That worried me more than if they had. Experienced investigators don't panic. They get quiet. The lead inspector walked the length of the orchard with a GPS receiver, while another compared old survey maps to current satellite overlays. Every few minutes they stopped, marked a location with bright orange paint, and took photographs. Linda kept pacing. "This is ridiculous," she snapped. "The HOA approved this project weeks ago." The inspector never looked up. "The county didn't." She crossed her arms. "We don't need county approval for landscaping." He finally met her eyes. "This isn't landscaping." He pointed toward the shattered remains of one of my oldest apple trees. That tree was estimated to be over 70 years old. Then he pointed farther down the slope. "And those trees are inside a protected agricultural corridor." Linda laughed nervously. "No, they're not." The inspector unfolded another map. "This survey says they are." She immediately pulled out her own folder. "Our attorney reviewed everything." The inspector glanced at her paperwork for less than 5 seconds. Then he handed it back. "This survey isn't certified." "What difference does that make?" "It means it has no legal authority." The construction foreman slowly removed his hard hat. "You mean, we've been tearing down protected property?" The inspector answered with one word. "Yes." Nobody spoke after that. Even the birds seemed afraid to make a sound. One deputy arrived a few minutes later. Not because anyone was being arrested. Not yet. Because the county wanted the entire site preserved exactly as it was. Every stump, every pile of branches, every bulldozer track. Everything became evidence. Linda suddenly changed her tone. "I'm sure we can work this out." That sentence told me everything. An hour earlier, she had been giving orders. Now she wanted negotiations. Too late. The county photographed every destroyed tree tag still attached to the trunks. Years of history carefully documented before the logs were loaded away. One inspector asked me a question. "Do you have maintenance records?" "I have better." I drove to my barn. Inside an old filing cabinet sat decades of orchard journals. My grandfather had recorded every tree he planted, every graft, every harvest, every disease treatment, every replacement, even hand-drawn maps showing exactly where each tree stood. The inspector slowly flipped through the pages. I've never seen records this complete. Neither had Linda. Her face lost all color. She whispered something to her attorney, who had just arrived. The attorney read the journals, then quietly asked Linda, "Did you know these existed?" She shook her head. He closed the notebook. "We have a serious problem," she whispered back. "How serious?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked across the orchard. Hundreds of stumps, destroyed irrigation lines, crushed fencing, damaged soil. Then he said something I'll never forget. "This isn't a landscaping dispute anymore. This is property destruction." The county's agricultural specialist arrived before sunset. Unlike everyone else, he didn't begin by measuring land. He examined the trees, or what was left of them. He counted growth rings, measured trunk diameters, collected bark samples, examined the roots. Finally, he walked over to me. "Some of these fruit varieties are no longer commercially available." "What does that mean?" "It means they can't simply be replaced with nursery trees." Linda overheard. "So buy him new ones." The specialist shook his head. "That's not how heritage orchards work." He pointed toward a massive fallen apple tree. That tree represented decades of cultivation. "You can't replace 70 years with a receipt." Silence. Then he added something that made even the deputies exchange glances. "The replacement value isn't based on the cost of a sapling. It's based on restoration." Linda frowned. "I don't understand." "I know. That's why you're about to." Her attorney slowly lowered his head into his hands, because he already understood exactly where this was heading. And judging by the look on his face, the number would be far bigger than anyone in the HOA had imagined. The next morning, the orchard looked like a crime scene. Yellow tape stretched between fence posts. Evidence markers sat beside shattered trunks. County investigators moved methodically from tree to tree, documenting everything before a single piece of wood was removed. Drone cameras flew overhead, creating a detailed map of the destruction. Every photograph, every measurement, every stump added another page to a case that was growing larger by the hour. Word spread through Willow Creek faster than anyone expected. Neighbors who had ignored the bulldozers the day before were now stopping their cars along the road. Some stood quietly with folded arms. Others pulled out their phones. The same HOA board members who had applauded Linda's beautification project suddenly avoided eye contact. One by one, they realized this wasn't becoming a victory. It was becoming evidence. By noon, my attorney, Daniel Brooks, arrived carrying a thick leather briefcase. He didn't waste time with sympathy. "I've reviewed everything you sent last night." "And?" He smiled. "They didn't just damage your orchard. They created at least 6 separate legal claims. That caught even the county inspector's attention." Daniel laid the files across the hood of my truck. Unauthorized entry, property destruction, trespass, conversion, damage to protected agricultural assets, and possibly fraud if these work orders were based on knowingly inaccurate surveys. Linda's attorney walked over immediately. "You're getting ahead of yourself." Daniel calmly slid the certified county survey across the truck. "No, your client did." The attorney read it twice. His shoulders sank. He already knew defending Linda was becoming impossible. Then another surprise arrived. A black SUV pulled into the driveway. The logo on the door read, "State Department of Agriculture." I hadn't called them. Neither had the county. The specialist stepped out carrying a hard case. Inside were tools I'd never seen before. Laser measuring equipment. Tree valuation charts. Reference books thicker than phone directories. He spent hours examining the orchard. He measured trunk diameters, estimated canopy spread from old aerial photographs, reviewed my family's harvest journals, and compared them with agricultural records dating back decades. Finally, just before sunset, he gathered everyone together. "I've completed my preliminary valuation." Linda folded her arms confidently. "They were fruit trees. They aren't worth that much." The specialist looked directly at her. "You're valuing fruit. I'm valuing living assets." He opened his report. The oldest heritage apple trees alone require decades to restore. The irrigation system was custom designed around mature root structures. The soil has been compacted by heavy equipment. Several heirloom cultivars have effectively been lost. Every sentence made Linda's expression worse. Then came the number. The estimated restoration cost currently exceeds... He paused. $2.9 million. The crowd gasped. Linda laughed. "That's impossible." The specialist calmly nodded. "Actually, that's only the restoration estimate." He flipped another page. "It doesn't include lost production. It doesn't include diminished property value. It doesn't include historical significance. It doesn't include legal damages." Daniel quietly whispered to me, "Wait, there's more." Linda's attorney interrupted. "We'd like to discuss settlement." Daniel didn't even look at him. "We're not discussing anything today." The attorney lowered his voice. "My client is prepared to be reasonable." Daniel finally smiled. "Yesterday she wasn't. Today it's our turn." The board members began arguing among themselves. "You told us permits were approved. You said the county signed off. You told us the property belonged to the HOA." Linda shouted back. "That's what I was told." One board member froze. "By who?" For the first time, Linda didn't answer. Instead, she looked toward the folded survey that had started all of this. Daniel noticed. "So there is someone else." She stayed silent. Silence can be louder than a confession. Then a county investigator approached, carrying a sealed evidence bag. Inside was something recovered from Linda's discarded project folder, a photocopy of an older survey. Not the certified version. Someone had altered the property line with a thick black marker. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't blurry. It wasn't accidental. The line had been deliberately moved. The investigator looked at Linda. "Can you explain this?" No one breathed. Because if she couldn't, this case was about to become much more than an HOA dispute. It was about to become a criminal investigation. The evidence bag never left the investigator's hand. No one asked to see it twice. They didn't need to. The thick black line crossing the survey wasn't a printing defect. It wasn't a faded copy. Under the investigator's light, you could still see the original property boundary beneath the marker. Someone had intentionally moved the line by nearly 30 feet, just enough to make my orchard appear to fall inside HOA common property. The lead investigator turned to Linda. "When did you first receive this document?" She swallowed. I don't remember." "You don't remember, or you don't want to answer?" My attorney advised me not to speculate. Her attorney closed his eyes for a second. That wasn't the answer he wanted. The investigator carefully placed the altered survey next to the certified county original. Side by side, the difference was obvious. Even the board members standing behind Linda could see it. One of them, a retired accountant named Susan, stepped forward. "I've never seen that version before." Another board member nodded. "Neither have I." Linda spun around. "Don't do this now." Susan folded her arms. "No, you don't get to say that after what happened." The tension exploded. Board members began talking over one another. "You told us legal approved it. You said the county map matched. You promised there was no liability." Linda kept insisting she had relied on professional advice, but no one was listening anymore. Daniel leaned toward me and whispered, "Watch what happens when people realize they might be personally responsible." He was right. Within minutes, 3 board members announced, right there in the orchard, that they had voted based only on the documents Linda presented. They had never visited the property. They had never verified the survey. The investigator wrote every word down. Then another surprise arrived. A forensic document examiner. She wasn't interested in the trees. She was interested in ink. Using portable imaging equipment, she examined the altered survey without touching it. Different wavelengths of light revealed something hidden beneath the black marker. The original boundary line, exactly where my deed said it should be. She looked at the investigator. The alteration was added after the document was copied. Linda's attorney immediately spoke. "We'll cooperate fully." The investigator nodded. "I recommend you do." Daniel closed his folder. For 4 decades, this orchard survived storms, droughts, and disease. He looked directly at Linda. It almost didn't survive paperwork. Over the next several months, the civil case moved quickly. Faced with overwhelming evidence, the HOA's insurance carrier entered negotiations. Independent arborists, agricultural economists, and restoration experts all reached the same conclusion. Replacing mature heritage trees wasn't simply a matter of planting new saplings. The orchard required years of specialized restoration, soil rehabilitation, irrigation reconstruction, and preservation work. The settlement was unlike anything our county had seen. The HOA agreed to fund the complete restoration of the orchard under court supervision. They paid for new irrigation. They paid for soil restoration. They paid for expert arborists to recover every tree that could still be saved. They compensated for lost harvest income. They reimbursed every legal expense. And they established a permanent conservation buffer that prevented future HOA interference with the orchard. Linda resigned before the case officially ended. Several board members also stepped down, admitting they had approved actions they should have questioned. As for the altered survey, investigators continued reviewing how it had been created and used. I won't speculate about the outcome, but the document remained part of the official investigation. A year later, I stood in the same orchard at sunrise. It wasn't the same. Some empty spaces would take decades to fill. But new growth had begun. Young apple trees stretched toward the morning light. The surviving heritage trees bloomed again. My daughter picked the first peach from one of the restored rows and smiled. "It still tastes the same." I smiled back. "No, it tastes even better. Not because we won, but because the orchard's story didn't end with bulldozers. It ended with accountability. And every spring, when those trees bloom, they remind everyone in Willow Creek of one simple truth. Property lines matter. Documents matter. And no HOA is above the law."